Alrighty, folks, we are going to talk about how a one rental at a time fan, school member, and recent guest on my YouTube channel highlighted how he is looking to buy potentially a $3.2 million apartment building and the 50-40-10 offered by Stephen Down Velocity Mortgage is going to be one of the offers he sends out. We're going to talk about that and more. But before we do that, let's get the marketing spiel out of the way so you and I don't get in trouble.
Again, although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel that of my own. So thanks for remembering. As far as that particular scenario, pulling it up, not to give all the particular details as far as address and such, but it's two multifamilies actually, a 26 and a 20 unit apartment in Oklahoma.
So this is what I wanted to talk about because we there's so much here we could talk about. First of all, Velocity Mortgage obviously helps with, kind of home flipping and all of that. But all the valuable stuff we've talked about for the years can go to apartment buildings. And the thing that Stephen does, and this is the client, Stephen, and follower, I just use first names. What he's doing is, before the 50-40-10, he would go in like this. The building is worth, let's just say $3 million. He can go get a DSCR loan from a vendor and make it cash flow, but he has to pay $2 million. He could go in with seller financing, 90% seller financing, 10% down, and pay $3 million asking price. What he's been really excited about the 50-40-10 is he can kind of split the difference, because a lot of sellers who are selling a $3 million apartment building, they want some of the money. Not, if you're only getting 10% down, you're going to lose that to commissions and fees and, all of that. You're not going to see much cash. But the 50-40-10 allows him to go back to the seller and go, hey, if you want to seller finance $3 million all day long, you want a cash price, I can go get a DSCR loan, cash you out $2 million. But the 50-40-10 goes, I'll give you 2.7 or 2.8 million. You're going to get 60% of your cash day one, and you're going to carry 40% for the next decade or something like that. All of that is negotiable. So what Stephen was telling me, and he shared in his video, is it gives him that third and frankly best option, because he's been trying to buy apartment buildings in Oklahoma as others have in other states, and trying to get 90% seller financing for a landlord that wants to get out, not very easy to do. But 60% cash and 40% carry, much easier to do. So people are starting to finally see that the 50-40-10 is all it is and more, because it gives you just more options. You get blended interest rate, less down. The buyer's only 10%. Crazy. Buy a $3 million building with 10% down. Get a blended interest rate below market. Help the guy with taxes. Maintain income. It is the best win-win-win I've ever seen. So Stephen looks like he's going to go try to buy some apartments with the 50-40-10.
Yeah, no, I remember the conversation. He was pretty excited, just getting the details of this particular product. So it's just, I think in layman's terms, it's like having a tool that you discovered that's like useful to like all this
Swiss Army knife.
Giant Swiss Army knife. Yeah, he's just like, oh yeah, let me pull this out. So no, he was really thoroughly pleased after we got some of the details, because then he knew how to apply it to what he was trying to achieve with some of his properties. Because again, when we started discussing the terms and how to structure, he understood. So then now he's just like, oh man, he's gonna go out there, basically happy hunting, try to find that motivated seller. Just a series of math problems. That's all.
Yeah, I'm convinced he's going to do one or two of these this year, because he's disciplined. He also does stuff off market, right? He's using PropStream and some other technologies to help him do mailers and the like, or get lists. He uses somebody else for mailers. I forget the name, but I wish more people understood how flexible the 50-40-10 is to buy apartment buildings, because again, we have a lot of landlords, a lot of people looking to get out, and it's really a simple story, but it takes practice, right? You've got to practice it. You got to understand the ins and outs. And I really do think a lot of landlords would sell with the 50-40-10 even taking a lower price because they get more cash day one. That's my thinking.
Yeah. Again, depending upon, I guess, the desires or minimum requirements for each party, you kind of then structure the deal accordingly as to where you can kind of get in, where you can fit in, and then just start crunching numbers. But once you do that, like I was just saying, a series of math problems to see if the cash flows from day one, getting close to the buyer or seller's price, or even maybe give them a little bit over, and it still works. It definitely could be a win-win. And you brought up all the specific factual details as far as the benefits to the seller. Generating passive income, lowering initial capital gains tax hit, getting to sell now, no more bleeding. So there's definitely benefits, and then obviously cash flow from day one with only 10% down.
Yeah,
for the buyer.
hello.
I mean, sign me up. Yeah, rinse and repeat. Get another situation where that can apply to. So just getting to the decision maker, obviously the seller, and having that meaningful conversation. Don't know what how many times you've made the pitch, but obviously over time, I'm sure it just gets better and better as you can maybe tweak it a little bit as far as discussing and negotiating for potential seller combined financing with our financing. But I would imagine over time you can get really good at this. And again, if you have that meaningful conversation with the decision maker, and they don't need all the proceeds from the sale of their property, and depending upon how much they can hold and how long, it's all just a series of math problems. And once you crunch those numbers, you see where those fall, and then it's just make the move based upon the numbers. It's like rolling with the bones see. It's like a fortune teller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the other thing I would tell people about the 50-40-10 is don't negotiate against yourself. I can't tell you how many people, because one of the selling points for me is I can get the blended interest rate below market.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We come to Velocity, we get the best rates because we're doing a 50% LTV first. We're going to the seller and getting a 40% seller carry second. A lot of people just assume a seller won't take a below market interest rate. Stop that negative thinking. Just because you wouldn't loan somebody $300,000 at 4% doesn't mean they won't. You have no idea what their motivation is.
Right. You again, like you said, don't bet against yourself. Worst they can say is no. Always be an advocate for yourself. I mean, there's nobody in your corner except you, so why not go for the best situation for yourself? Worst they can say is no. So start low. They probably start high. You're gonna meet somewhere in the middle, but you're not gonna want to start in the middle.
Yeah.
So no, 1% interest only, 10-year balloon.
Yeah, do it.
Up.
Ask. Yeah, sign it.
I've seen it done.
I have too. I've done it. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the last thing is I would tell somebody negotiating with the seller is make it a math formula, right? The income of the building is X. I have to keep my payment at Y. Yep. Velocity's payment's going to be Z. That means I can pay you the delta between Y and Z. I don't care how we get there, right? I could borrow this much and pay you very little interest rate. I could borrow this much and pay you a big interest rate. Doesn't matter to me. We've got to equal that number or lower.
Right.
It's very simple.
Just that simple. Yeah. But again, it's just not many people conceptually can understand how this works. A lot of times, even though you explain it multiple times, it's like, wait, who does the second? Where's that money come from? I'm like, that's the seller's equity. And then but I think once that light bulb goes off, and if the circumstances will allow like enough equity from the seller, them willing to carry, and not needing all the proceeds from the sale of the property, and the rent's high enough,
done.
Everything else is just done.
Game changer.
So
I look forward to Steven buying at least one, if not two, apartment buildings in Oklahoma this year. Yeah, I bet. But my hope is we inspire a dozen people to dig into the 50-40-10 to buy apartments. We have a lot of people doing houses and duplexes and quads, the smaller stuff. But I think the 50-40-10 is game changer when you're buying $1 million properties, 10% down, lower blended interest rate, longer terms, right? Because again, Velocity's money, 30-year fixed.
Yep.
Seller second, 10-year balloon minimum. Right, if not 30-year.
Right. We did I wouldn't say it was a 50-40-10. I think it was more like a 60-30-10 on a multifamily, and seller 10-year balloon, forgot what the interest rate was on the second, but the plan was, because they felt it was under rented or under market. And so they're going to go in and revamp and get new rents in there, increase rents, and be able to be, cash flowing pretty much within 3 months or so.
Yeah. This is the game.
This is the game. And so it's kind of, maybe it doesn't start off that way, but if there's potential for upside for rents and, slap some lipstick on a pig and you're off to the races, 3 or 4 months later. And at that point, it's 30-year fixed money, like you said, pay off the seller even faster. It's just, so
game changing. Well, true wealth building. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, talk about buying apartment buildings using the 50-40-10, what are they doing?
Email at the bottom right there, simply to sdao@velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, please put the acronym ORAAT to make it past the firewall. Body of the email, brief description, what you're looking to do. At least, address would be wonderful, or at least city and state to make sure I lend there. Your mid-FICO score, and phone number to best reach you at, and I'll typically be in touch within 24, 40 hours.
Bud, you're amazing. Take care. I think we're going to see some people buy apartments with the 50-40-10 this year.
It would be neat. I've done mainly residential. Like I said, that small multifamily. Yeah. I want to see a common, again, it's fun to kind of stack features on top of features. Like I want to do a blanket loan where we can do the 50-40-10, and they're gonna that would be neat to do the 50-40-10 on a blanket loan.
So what you're saying is Steven's going to buy multiple apartment buildings in Oklahoma. That's what you're saying.
Yes. That's exactly.
Steven, we're trying to help you out, brother. We're trying to give you good karma. All right, buddy. Take care of yourself. sdow@velocitymortgage.com. Have a great week.
You too, Mike. Take care.